Hi there. Welcome. I'm Bob Thompson, and I'd like to welcome you to the world of college cost challenges. You caught me reading an old pamphlet here, Tuition and Fees, talking about Form Ed plans. And this goes back 25 years, and I didn't realize that it was in my folder on tuition futures. But I had to chuckle while I was waiting to get on. And some of the things that I have in here haven't changed. It's amazing. What's successful remains successful. And those parents that fall short, that are at the panic crisis stage now, as I call parents of juniors and seniors in high school, that we're looking at sources of financial aid and grants falling out of the sky, and grandparents that aren't there with a lot of money and they didn't win the lotto and so on. But it's very interesting to look at something like this and how we're and have been falling short in preparing for the college cost challenges. The last couple programs we've talked about $1.52 trillion of student loan debt. And we're relating student loan debt with mortgage debt and credit card debt. And in some cases, student loan debt related college cost debt exceeds credit card debt. That's amazing to me. But the point here is, how did we get there? What's the reason? And why are we where we are, kind of thing? Well, our program today, title-wise, I chose a new GPS for parents. GPS for parents. Parents sharing with parents. Now, this program, the last 3 or 4, we thought we would program different chapters, different lessons, and so on from a book that we have coming out shortly, and that we would talk about sections in the book from the galley proof and journey through these chapters and what we've learned. And the idea with the new GPS for parents is that the book that we've put together is really 80% of this book is contributions by parents, who I sometimes refer to as veteran parents, because they have the college cost picture behind them. But for many of them, they are faced with their own debt that's college related and trying to help their college graduate who's out there maybe engaged or getting married or saving for their own mortgage or saving for their grandchildren's college fund. And here's the parent over here that is now an empty nester, struggling with all kinds of college-related debt. $1.52 trillion of student debt, but that doesn't count home equity loans, parent loans, other parent-related loans on top of that 1.52 trillion. How did we get there? Well, a lot of reasons. And this is my 20 or 30% of the book, looking at parents sharing in the stories that they have and making some observations there and possible answers to how we got there and what can we do for what I call early stage parents today. Parents that are just getting started, they're starting their family, they are struggling with the natural cash flow, maybe going from two incomes to one income, and maybe back to 1.5 income a little bit later. But it's one of, how do we, out of 3 groups of parents, the no planners, they haven't planned at all, the informal planners, this large group in the middle, and what we call formed or formalized planners, where they have a degree of success and they've got a smiley after this whole process. What differentiates this group who have a higher degree of success in dealing with this compared to this large group in the middle, informal planners and no planners? Pretty hard not to say the no planners are out there really scrambling, and that they as parents will have maybe as much debt as their student does. But that represents this no planner group. It really hasn't changed percentage-wise in the last 20 or 30 years. Represents about 22 to 24% of parents. Now these are not parents where the children didn't go to college. They actually have experience where their child or children went to college and what their experiences were. 22 to 24% in that group. The informal planners, they tried to save, they did a little bit here on birthdays or Christmas. They started a savings plan. They may have put some money into a 529 informally, but they had a financial situation. Maybe one of the two parents lost a job, voluntarily or involuntarily changed employment. There may have been some intervening event that caused them to stop funding, or they didn't keep up with the increases in their AGI, their own personal income, or whatever the reason is. It was kind of, they went with the flow. And it was informal. They didn't have a plan that they could monitor. There was nothing about going back and seeing if they were on time necessarily. It's a very informal plan. And some of these start with, like I say, birthdays or holidays, a gift of some kind, maybe encouragement by grandparents saying, you two ought to start a college plan for Sarah. But this group, 70, 72, 74, 76% in this large group here, and only 4% in what I call the successful group of parents. What was the distinguishing aspect of it? So bring it back to why did we get there where we are today? And coming back to some of these lessons that parents have, and having a change of some kind. And we're really talking about forming habits. How do we form these habits? How do we get wired earlier? The old adage, the old rule of thumb was save early, save a lot. Two-dimensional, 2 stages. Save early, save a lot. That hasn't changed in decades. The advice that's given today by many advisors, save early, save a lot. Here's a challenge for you. You do-it-yourselfers, which that informal group of 72, 74%, a lot of do-it-yourselfers, because I feel comfortable that, hey, I'm a college graduate, I'm smart, my spouse is smart, we're both intelligent, and we can do it ourselves. Why do we need outside help? Well, a lot of do-it-yourselfers are over in the 4%. I'll grant that. Not a lot, but yes, it can be done. And today, I depend on the internet. I depend on all this information that's readily available to me. Here's the challenge for you. One of the many challenges of the world of college costs. Google funding for education. Try it. After this program, go in and Google funding for education. Page after page after page. Financial aid, grants, scholarships, local organizations. getting a scholarship from wherever, okay? It is funding at the last minute. How can I get additional funds for college? And in the comments section under the Google site, people ask, how do I pay for college if I have no money? How can I raise college money fast? This is in Google response. People ask, how can I pay for college without my parents' help? So here are students wanting to go to college, but they know their parents don't have funds. Now that's funding for college. Now there are a lot of good, there's a lot of good information coming back from that. I don't mean to minimize that. But all that's saying to me was there was no planning before. Now I am where I am. The reason that I'm there is I didn't do anything for preparation. And how do I pay for college if I have no money? So, second part of Google Challenge is saving for college. How do I actually save? Well, this is an improvement. Good. People are in there, do it yourself, whatever, seeking from this source, this fire hose that I'm drinking of information, and they're actually seeking information of saving for college. Now some people comment and ask, how much do I need to save for college? Google is going to help me there. Siri, tell me the magic pill on how I fund and how I save for college, future college costs. And Siri comes back and says, save early, save a lot. Some people ask, is a 529 college savings plan a good idea? Well, if they get a good response, which should come, yes, it is a good idea. But as you look at all of the providers, the states and their providers for their 529 plans in the respective states, it is one of, you got it, save early, save a lot. Good advice. Some people ask, what happens to a 529 plan if it's not used? Now here I am struggling with human nature, procrastination, putting it off, events in family, swings here, natural things. And as I'm getting here and saving, how do I save? Where do I save? 529 save. And some people are saying, whoa, if I put money away, what happens to 529 if it's not used? Meaningful question, meaningful answers. Certainly that's a justifiable question, but it comes very high in the comments section of investing and saving for college. Boy, it's a good source. Try Google, try some other sources. Get in and dig into the internet. Find out what the suggestions are. And I can tell you, without any question in my mind, most of it is save early, save a lot. 2 dimensions, 2 stages. Okay, let's talk to some of these parents that have meaningful stories, personal stories, real stories of how they experienced this. And as one of my good clients down on the shore says, Bob, you were right. It's a humbling experience. Humbling experience. You were right. Okay, I Googled again. Articles, authors, reporters. The editor says, Jane, let's have an article in 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now about this terrible student debt that we have and how can we overcome this growing student debt? What's the answer? Well, lately, unfortunately, some of the response is going to be, Well, I got the answer. Let's have free education. Let's have free college. Okay, I'm not going to go there. But New York Times article. Saving for college is easier if started earlier. That's earth-shaking. Saving for college is easier if you start earlier. Financial experts recommend using a regular saving strategy to help you set manageable goals, but where to begin? Let's start early and save a lot. Well, that's pretty good thinking. Great advice. Now, the purpose of the World of College Cost Challenge book is that we think with all of these parents and the experiences that they've had, that we're really dealing with 7 dimensions, not 2. 7 stages, not 2. So if the old adage, the rule of thumb is save early, save a lot, why do we fall short? Well, early on, the early stage parents, they really don't have a lot of money to save. There's no discretionary or excess, bottom line, month to month, paycheck to paycheck money to save. Well, I should recognize that as being one of my challenges, and by recognizing it, I'm halfway there to solution. And how does that come into my 7 dimensions? Well, number 1 stage, number 1 dimension, have a formal written plan. Because if I have a plan, I can periodically monitor it. And if in the plan, I recognize that there are going to be some changes in the next 16, 18, 20 years as to our household income or whatever, okay? But in the plan recognizes that after the plan, there's going to be an adjustment period. That's the 2nd stage. The recognition of an adjustment period is that I may have credit card debt. I may have to formalize how I'm paying our own husband and wife's student loans. It incorporates an adjustment. How do we get from renting and possibly saving for a mortgage on a house? How do we do all these things? It is a part of the college plan. And if I know up front that it's natural, it's not bad, and it's not a reason to procrastinate that someday we'll start college, someday we'll get there. I promise by 8th, 9th grade, 10th grade, oh shoot. Now we're in a panic and crisis. Go back to Google real quick and find out where all the grants and financial aid is going to come from, and how do we manipulate or gerrymander the FAFSA application. How do we do all this stuff, okay? If I go back here early on with early stage parents and say, here's what you're going to experience. Here's why you're going to experience it. Here's what other parents have done. Here's what parents are sharing with you that you can do this. But we have some people that say it's too expensive. And should we be put in a situation where we have to save early, save a lot, and save less for our retirement? The whole idea of the 7 dimensions is to answer that question. The dilemma here that we have, if I do all of this for college funding, I'm going to have less in retirement. You can do both if it's planned. So the written plan recognizes that good college planning is good retirement planning. And how do I do both? Okay? Well, if we had this magical drone over here that has a new GPS for early stage parents, and we walk through a plan that gives me direction and gives me in advance, no surprises, in advance recognizes what we're going to experience. Everybody's different, but everybody's the same. And if we can recognize that someday I'm not going to wake up Rip Van Parent like Rip Van Winkle, and I slept for the last 14 years and didn't do anything. Forget about saving for one point, but what was my plan? How were we going to approach this? Okay, so this GPS gives me directions and gives me a plan to walk through all of these. Okay, I'm criticized by some of my colleagues, other planners, that when I criticize college calculators do more harm than good. There is some good coming out of college, going through the process of calculating what future costs are. We just did our 35th annual college cost projection, and it's frightening. And it says that 35th annual survey of colleges, and it lists the top 12 most expensive colleges, and it starts off with Harvey Mudd out in California, over $75,000, and it ends up with Tufts around the corner up the state, Tufts at $71,000. These are colleges this year that are charging more than $70,000, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Sally is 6, and brother David is 9. And when we put these two together, we're talking about projecting $290,000. This is based on our alma mater. Husband and wife met in college, and they wanted to use what their alma mater cost is currently as the base, and projecting that college, their alma mater, and what it would cost when these two children go to college. $299,000 in one case and $318,000 in another case. And the combination of the two, almost $600,000, $570,000. If I were to buy a house today for $570,000, would I look at a calculator that squeezes $570,000 of cost into 4 years? No. I'd get a mortgage for 30 years with a level fixed payment, 30 years spreading that cost. Oh yes, Bob, but I don't want to pay the interest. Wait a minute. We're talking about funding and paying off $1.52 trillion, principal and interest. Wait a minute, let's do the math. How am I going to pay for this $570,000 house? Well, if I have a plan, and if you've gone through a closing on a mortgage, and you've got a stack of papers like this that you have to sign and acknowledge, and you got to go through that and say, well, wait a minute, that is a written plan. It protects the lender and protects you. It gives you a track to run on. This is your monthly principal and income statement. This is what you're going to pay. We require you have escrow, which are real estate taxes and insurance. This is a formal written plan. It should be. It's a 30-year obligation. But, oh, this college thing? Wait a minute. I'll get around to that. We'll start saving in a couple years. My wife's pregnant again with another child. Oh, we'll put this off. We can't afford it. Okay. I'm just saying that somehow people over here, no difference in income, no difference in number of children, no difference in where they live, what they buy at the restaurant or what have you. These 4%ers experience the same economic financial conditions, but how did they get there? Well, the whole idea of the world of college cost challenges is chapter by chapter by chapter, we recognize and we share what these other parents did. Let me give you an example. A college calculator says, oh, my 9-year-old, we have 8 or 9 more years until college. And we project what the cost is and the assumption and how much money is going to grow, your savings are going to grow. All of these calculations and assumptions are put in there. And you've got to save for these 2 children $2,980 a month. Oh, can't do that. Almost $3,000 a month? Can't do that. So what's a natural thing? I put it off. I delay it. A lot of people don't even start saving at that point. Forget about $3,000. How about $100 for each child? Well, that's not going to do anything. That won't even buy books today, Bob. All the reasons why we can't even start $100. I'm thinking, okay. So calculators can put the fear of God in you and say, mission impossible, we can't do it. So what do? We're going to depend on financial aid. Surely, we will qualify for financial aid. And maybe Jonathan will get a scholarship. He's a good lacrosse player. Have you seen Jonathan play? Jonathan is going to be a Division I lacrosse player. He's going to get a full scholarship. And Jennifer, she is the best. You should hear her play violin. I mean, I know she's going to Juilliard. I know she'll be a music scholarship at Yale. I can sense it. Okay, so here are the children 6 and 9 or whatever, and already the parents are enamored by what they hear. The Jones down the street, boy, their children got scholarships and so on. And I'm assuming our children are going to get scholarships? We're going to get financial aid? We're going to get all these grants and scholarships? No. Okay, here's one, not a secret. You fund not to college, you fund through college. And for the younger or youngest, you fund 4 years beyond. And I mentioned in the previous program, an anniversary, 25th anniversary of Money Magazine, we were noted in there as tuition futures and tuition fees, that a SAFE plan is at least 12 years. Well, at least we've gone from 4 years, not to 30 years, but a SAFE plan is 12 years, at least 4 years before, 4 years during, and 4 years after. I don't know how you play the 12 years, but for the younger or youngest, you tack on 4 years after the younger or youngest graduates from college. That way I have a plan as to how I'm going to pay for college, and I have a plan that's part of it, how I'm going to fund for my own retirement, our retirement. There's been much more to come. Come back and visit with us. Do more than save early and save a lot. Thanks.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.